Counting you down to the start of the 2024 season for the Aggies. You're locked on to the Zone's coverage of Mountain West Conference Media Day. Live from Las Vegas on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Live here in Las Vegas, counting you down to the start of the college football season. As never a dull moment in Logan. Nate Dreiling, the interim head coach at Utah State, kind enough to join us. His first public comments since getting the gig with the Blake Anderson news that came out nearly a couple of weeks ago. But, Coach, you and I were just talking a little bit. I want to say congratulations, but I know this isn't the way you really want to become a head coach, but you're here and you have it. So what has these last 2 weeks been like for you?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me on. It's been a whirlwind, not just for me and my family, but obviously these players as well. Everyone was kind of blindsided by the news and taken back at first. But I think our staff has done a fabulous job of putting a game plan in place so these players can see kind of how we're going to do this thing moving forward and what is our vision. And at the end of the day, it's still the same goals. Like, we all came here to win a Mountain West championship, and that's what we're going to do and make sure we do it the right way.
How do you talk to these players and address them in such a way to let them know that, okay, you know what, the guy that you play, that you signed for isn't here, but we're still here to support you. We're still here to make you better. What are those conversations like? Yeah,
it was a rush of emotions, obviously, right? But the one question and the one big concern was, like, what is going to change? Everyone loved kind of the previous way that we had and how we were aligned. So getting them across, like, their day-to-day operations not going to change. Offense and defensively, it's going to be the exact same stuff that we've been doing. But the only thing we'll tweak here and there is what they think can help get this place better and help us get to a Mountain West championship. Every answer, and I told them this, the decision I make is going to be on what's best by the players. They've been here a lot longer than I have, so I'm just going to give them the platform they need to be successful.
People need to realize that you just barely moved to Logan yourself. You were running that New Mexico State defense last year. You get hired by Blake. So your time in Logan has been very limited. What's that transition been like for you? Regardless of the coaching position, just moving a family to Logan and being a part of the Utah State family.
Yeah, we still got boxes to unpack. So my wife's like, are we unpacking them? What are we doing here? So we're putting that on hold and just rolling our sleeves up and kind of getting work to the players. One thing I will say about the Logan community, we have a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and it's been nothing short of amazing of how beautiful a place that is to raise a family and just to be around with the community. So outside of football, it's been absolutely phenomenal. And then with the football piece and everything getting added to it, we obviously are excited about the opportunity we have at hand.
You're down a coach. Are you able to add another coach, and will you add a coach to your staff?
Yeah, Diana gave me some hiring powers that we're still working through. But we're not going to move very fast on that. I have a lot of trust in everyone in that building right now. So if we do bring someone in, he's going to have to fit a lot of things for us, but ultimately being trusted by both offense and defense and special team staff.
So on the offensive side, Kyle take over the offense. How does that work?
Yeah, I got the one thing that I think everyone knows about Utah State, the offense has been unbelievable. I think last year they were 19th in the country. So as my first priority as a head coach is to not mess that up, right? So I'm going to give them all the resources they need to be successful. But as far as looking any different, it'll be pretty similar to what you guys seen in the past.
Defensively, you're now down on the field. Were you planning on being in the booth before, or how and how does that change in terms of how you call? Will you call the defense, or how's that going to play out?
I will continue to call the defense. I have always called it from the field. I try to isolate myself. You'll see me about 30 yards away from everybody. I try to meet best of both worlds. I try to not get caught up in the emotions and still having a good eye on what is going on with the game. Obviously now being a little bit more involved with the offense, more so clock management than anything scheme-wise. So just being able to use my time wisely and making corrections on defensive end and being out there for the offense for whatever advice they need.
Schematically, what do you bring defensively? What does this defense look like?
So here's what we try to do. Football is simple. If you can eliminate big plays and keep the offense snapping the ball, eventually they're going to get tired of taking 5-yard chunks, right? And they're going to get overly aggressive. So what we try to do is that we try to wait for the offense to make a mistake and then capitalize on it. It's a very top-down approach. We'll give up a couple yards here and there, but ultimately, like, they're going to have to earn every single point as opposed to yards is what my belief has been.
New Mexico State is not an easy place to recruit to. It's not an easy place to have a lot of success, but you guys had it last year. What was it that allowed you guys to be so successful in a place that traditionally hasn't had a lot of success?
Coach Kill was unbelievable. He was our head football coach, and he's turned around every single program he's been at. So it was kind of the perfect timing for me to really sit and listen and learn from somebody who's done it at so many different stops. That's why I'm kind of excited to bring a little bit of my own style to this, and a large part of it is what Kill has been able to do in learning from one of the best that's ever done it. But ultimately, as you know, I didn't make any tackles last year. It's the players on the field, so that's our number one priority, no matter where you're at, and even more so right now with the Aggies.
You bring a couple guys with you from New Mexico State. Talk about them and what they can bring to the table.
Yeah, I think the final number is going to be right around 5 on the defensive side. So one thing I do bring is we're going to bring toughness. Like I will fall back on athleticism if he's overly tough. You can't win football games unless that's the standard. So we brought like Gabriel Iniquez, for instance. He's a defensive tackle for us, was an unbelievable player at New Mexico State, and he's the what you want. He's going to walk around and you're going to be proud of him whether he's on the field or whether he's off the field. Jordan Vincent is a safety, another guy that we had at New Mexico State that's been here since spring. And both those guys have finished very high in the captain's voting. They've only been here for 5 months, right? So it's not necessarily the players, exactly how talented they are on the field, but also what else can they bring? What do they bring to the locker room? What do they bring to the community? So those are the type of guys that we're going to continue to bring in.
I've heard the leadership with those two guys are through the roof.
They are phenomenal. They're awesome human beings, and man, I was just ecstatic when they said they wanted to come follow me, and I'll take them wherever I can.
What's your leadership style? As you as a leader, I know you're still, and I know you're going to get tired of hearing this today, but you're super young, relatively new in the business. But with that said, how have you devised your leadership style, and what encompasses you as a leader and the traits that you want to bring to the table?
I think maybe I'm a little bit different. I think control is for amateurs. I think if I have to tell my 3-year-old daughter, 25 times to throw the trash away, that's not getting anybody better. But if I can influence her to want to do that, right, then now we can move efficiently like we want. So it's the same way whether it's my kids or whether it's the players on the team. How can I influence these guys to not only do the right thing, but ultimately, when no one's looking, continue to want to be that person? So that's kind of the leadership approach I have. My dad was my high school football coach. He's still a head coach back in Kansas. So I've been around him and for a long time and kind of seeing he's do it as well as some other people. So little bits and pieces, but making sure I just influence and give them the platform they need.
Nate Dreiling, the new interim head coach at Utah State, joining us. Obviously, your dad's going to be number one on the list, but who are the other influences that you look at and you pull from in this first head coaching experience that you have? We were at 5 different states in 4 years, so we've been bouncing all over the country at a very influential time in my life. So whether it's like a year and a half with Mario Cristobal at the University of Oregon, 2 years with Coach Kill, Coach Tim Beck, who I was with at Pittsburgh State, who's now at Vanderbilt. So a lot of pieces, whether it's stealing leadership ideas, right, team chemistry ideas, or ultimately just how to manage a staff of this magnitude, which is going to be the biggest change. I'm used to be in charge of 60 people. Now I'm in charge of 200, right? So understanding how they do that and make sure those guys have everything they need to be successful. When you look at this landscape of college athletics, I believe on Tuesday, if things stay on schedule, that transfer portal will open up. What's your message to this team and trying to keep guys making sure that they stay in Logan?
Ultimately, they need to know this. They need to know that Logan is going to remain a place that they don't want to leave. You look at the transfer portal window last time when it opened in the spring, and very small amount of players left. Why? One, they love Logan, they love the community, but they love the environment that we have at Utah State. So like I said earlier, that's not going to change. We'll tweak whatever we can make better. But ultimately, I'm going to be here to serve the players first and foremost and give them what they want and what they need to be successful. I feel like if we do that, now we have a chance to not only have players stay, but ultimately, even more important, have players who want to stay and want to keep diving in and leaning on each other. Because at the end of the day, it's just a guy sitting in a different chair, but we have the exact same goals of winning a Mountain West championship.
You got a couple studs on this team. Let's start with Ike. He's an emotional guy. He said some things yesterday about why he stayed at Utah State and Blake Anderson being a part of it. What have the conversations been like with him, and what does he bring to the table from a player standpoint and from a personality standpoint?
I think you hit it right on the head. That's why everyone loves Ike, because he is going to do everything he can, and he is going to wear it all on his sleeve. That's why he's one of the best players in the country and one of the favorite players in the community, obviously being from here. He provides so much, not just on the field, but even more off the field. A player of that magnitude and the voice he has, it's so fun to be around. His smile is contagious, and it's been wonderful. The talks have been great. Obviously, everyone's still going through roller coasters, right? And whether you're a 20-year-old kid or you're a 33-year-old head coach, like, this is a lot to take in. But ultimately, we just got to make sure that we're always there for each other, leaning in on each other, and at the end of the day, come out swinging and fighting for each other.
Tell me about your background as a player coming up in the sport. What was that like?
So, like I said, my father was my head coach. Grew up in western Kansas, played at a little Division II school called Pittsburgh State. Was fortunate to have some success there, winning a national title one of the years, and went on, had a couple camps in the NFL. Realized my first...
What position?
Played linebacker.
Okay.
Yeah. Realized my first kickoff drill with the Packers, and I'm sprinting down. I feel good, and I look left and right, and everyone's 15 yards ahead of me. I'm like, this is probably it. So just veer off and head to the bus. So that was short-lived. But
go right off the field, right into
over there.
Greyhound station.
Thanks, Coach McCarthy. I appreciate it. But after that, I picked up a whistle and was hired at.
Was that always the plan, though?
It was.
Yeah.
My dad is a very successful high school football coach, and I wanted to get away from his shadow and kind of try the college thing. So I always wanted to get in, and so I got started as a GA at the University of Kansas under David Beatty for 15 and 16. Before getting hired back at my alma mater, Pittsburgh State, was the defensive coordinator there for a couple of years. Then we start moving. Then we go to University of Oregon. We go to New Mexico State. Before that, we even get Southeast Missouri State thrown in before here in Logan. So my 4-year-old daughter's lived in 5 states. We've been all over the place, and we're hopefully ready to settle in and dig some roots and create not only stability in my family, but even more importantly, stability for the Logan community and Utah State football.
I talked to Diana Sabo the other night. She mentioned she had you pegged really quick for this interim job. What was that phone call like? Talk us through how you found out, what that process was like, and kind of the emotions that were going through your mind when you found out that you'd be running this team.
We were, so not a lot of people know this. My wife was diagnosed with cancer August 10th of last year. So while she was going through chemo, we had a plan that we were going to go to Europe for a trip to kind of get light at the end of the tunnel and during the tough times. And so we are sitting at a pub in Dublin, Ireland. It's 5 p.m. over there, getting ready to order some food, and I get a random phone call on my phone. So it was, to say I was shocked, obviously overwhelming at first, right? Just hearing the news and, 1, hoping everyone's okay, first off. But then 2, catching the next flight I can back home and getting to Logan. The hard part is, the players were all over the country because it was 4th of July break, so I didn't get to speak with them face-to-face until Monday morning, and then started our individual meetings. So just getting back and getting my feet on the ground, boots on the ground, and getting working and rolled up the sleeves, it's been good since we've been back, but it's been a shock for everybody, yes.
So you had that cross-Atlantic flight, and I got to imagine you got the pen and the paper, and you're going through schematically how you want to build this thing, correct?
My wife yelled at me like 30 times because I kept bumping her while I was writing stuff and crossing stuff out. So, no, it was not a lot of sleep. I've been surviving on coffee. Ultimately, I just want to make sure that I have all the answers for these players. They deserve the world. They are a resilient group, right? And they didn't ask for this either. So I need to make sure that I can do everything I can for them to empower them, to give them the season that they want to have.
What is a Nate Dreiling player like? Like, what? Every coach has a type. Who's your type? What are you looking for in recruiting? Who are you looking for in and what attributes are you seeking out in terms of your players?
On the field, the first thing we'll have is toughness. If they're not tough, they can't play for us. That's bottom line. I'm sure a lot of people do follow that same model, but it'll be here more than anywhere. If you can have tough players with high character and high IQ, you have a chance to be very successful. I think the direction I want to go with this place, growing up with my dad being a high school coach, that's going to be our pipeline. We are going to try to put a fence up around Utah, right, Cache Valley and Salt Lake area, and wherever we need to keep these players in state. Because you look at the talent level that is in this state is unbelievable, and the rest of the world's slowly starting to figure that out. That's why so many jets are flying in from all these big schools. So we are going to be a pipeline to every single high school coach, reaching out to them, making sure they know, right, they've been in this area a lot longer than I have, so this is more of their facility than mine. But bringing in high school kids, one, that are phenomenal people, right, that the advisors love, the lunch ladies love, everything along those lines, but then two, want to play for Utah State. I don't want the kid that's pissed off that he's not playing for University of Texas. I want the kid that grew up wanting to play for Utah State. Very similar to like the approach Bill Snyder took at Kansas State, and you can see what he did with that place for the greatest turnaround ever. So that's been my philosophy from the get-go, and that's what we're going to follow moving forward.
How hard is it to identify toughness when you're watching a kid on film or you're at a game, and more often than not he's the best player on the team?
Sure. So
it's pretty easy for him to look really good, but he doesn't face a lot of adversity because he's probably better than everybody else out there. Is it tough as an evaluator to identify that kid's tough?
I think you have to be careful when you explain toughness. Like, a lot of people assume toughness is being able to whoop the guy across from you. Like, that's the price of admission to get in the building, right? Every single one of our players has that. I'm talking about how they react to certain situations, whether it's on the football field or even more importantly in their life, right? So we will speak to absolutely everyone to know what this kid's been through, what kind of diversity he's been, how has he answered these questions. That's toughness. Like, physical traits, everyone has those if they're playing in our team, right? But having people that have proven track records of been through tough times and being able to come out on top, like, that's what we're looking for.
What's your message to the staff? We talk about talking to the players, but I'm sure you've got staff members who've got wives, they've got kids, and they're looking around like, oh my goodness, what's going on now? How are we going to deal with this? Our world's getting turned upside down. How do you stabilize? I mean, you talk about stabilize the locker room, but stabilize, those coaches as well.
I think the best part about it is, yes, it's been a whirlwind, right? But this coaching staff is phenomenal. It's a very young group. I was able to hire the entire defensive staff, so I've worked with all of them personally over the years. The offensive staff, I worked with Coach Bassett at Southeast Missouri State, and so I've been around these guys for a very long time. And ultimately, what I told them is everything we're going to do is to make sure it's for the players, right? Whatever happens at the end of this thing has no relevance to us as long as we can look back and say to ourselves, like, we did everything we could to empower our players to have success. I feel like if we do that, then no matter what, we'll be proud of the outcome and go from there. But we don't want to get caught in the big picture. We're just taking it day by day and always having the players first mentality.
I can't wait for the season to start so we can actually talk about actual football. And I know you're in that same mode as well. Like, let's get camp going. Let's actually just focus in on football. At the end of the day, this is a good team you have. Offensively, with Spencer appears to be ready to and locked and loaded. Defensively, with the additions that you guys have brought in with the new scheme, this could be a really, really good football team. And I think that that's an important thing that may be getting lost in all of this, is that you guys have a chance to be pretty damn good this year.
I think you hit it on the head, and I think what the outside world is going to see is a team that is even more motivated and playing even closer together. A lot of people say, yes, when is adversity going to strike a football team? Well, it was July 3rd. So, man, we've been through a lot together. This is a very, very, very tight-knit group, which is even more important than talent. So I am excited to see the guys. When I spoke with them and having to listen to them, I'm meeting every single one of them individually, and they know, whatever happens, events does, they don't define you, right? But they reveal who you are. And I am so confident in the players and coaches we have in that room that the rest of the world's going to be shocked when everyone comes out swinging with a huge chip on their shoulder.
So, circling back, on the offensive side, you're just like, hey, look, it's a great offense. I'm staying out of it. Let those guys do their thing.
The biggest thing I'm trying to do is make sure they have all the resources to be successful, right? Obviously, you have one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the country, but even more importantly, he is one of the toughest. Here is my philosophy on how you win football games. You have a great defense and a tough quarterback. I don't care what the offense is. If you have that combination, one, players are going to play extremely hard. Fans are always going to be excited about what's about to happen next, right? But the chance of winning and winning late is kind of how you win games in football, right? And with that combination, we feel like we have a chance to be successful. Speaking of the offense, they've carried this load for Utah State for a while. Defensively, we're going to try to catch up to that to make sure it's not a one-sided, every game's a shootout type mindset. We'll take any win we can, but we're going to make sure we play, football the way it's supposed to be and back and forth and helping each other out.
Coach, you're going to get sick of me throughout the season. Coaches shows, pre-half and post, all that stuff. We're going to spend some quality time together, but can't wait to work with you.
Awesome, I appreciate it. And the rest of Aggie Nation, we're excited about it, and it's going to be a crazy ride. But I want everyone to show up and come to some practices and get around these players, so you guys know who you're going to be cheering for, and we're going to do whatever it takes to make everyone proud.
It's Nate Dreiling, interim head coach at Utah State, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.